This podcast contains content generated or significantly edited using artificial intelligence tools. All information is provided for general informational purposes only and reflects knowledge available at the time of publication. It does not constitute financial, investment, or legal advice. We recommend that listeners verify the information independently and consult with qualified professionals for personalized advice. Welcome to the Luxembourg Intelligence News Briefing Weekly, and welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here, as always, to unpack the key insights from your sources. Today, we're looking at Luxembourg's financial sector. It seems it's not just holding steady, but really actively reshaping its regulatory environment.
That's right. It's a picture of evolution. We'll explore how things like EU-level rules, Luxembourg's own proactive steps, and, changing best practices are all coming together. It really reinforces Luxembourg's position as a top-tier, reliable place to do business.
Okay, let's jump right in. The investment fund sector seems to be seeing some, significant shifts, starting with the European Securities and Markets Authority, ESM.
Yes, exactly. On June 26, 2025, ESMA released its final technical advice. It's about the review of the Undertakings for Collective Investment in Transferable Securities. That's UCITS Eligible Assets Directive, or EAD.
Right, the EAD.
The core idea here is really strengthening the UCITS brand, which is known globally. It's about making a clearer distinction between UCITS, which are aimed at retail investors, and alternative investment funds, or AIFs. It shows Luxembourg really getting in step with wider European harmonization.
Okay, makes sense. So how does this actually, hit the ground? What are the impacts for funds and their managers?
Well, there are three main proposals to understand. First, there's a mandatory 90% look-through approach. Basically, at least 90% of a UCITS portfolio needs to be checked right down to the underlying assets.
90%, wow.
Yeah, it stops indirect exposure to things that aren't eligible, like crypto or real estate. Second, they've expanded the 10% trash bucket. This gives a bit of flexibility, allowing limited indirect exposure to otherwise ineligible assets, could be derivatives or even AIF units, but only if they meet really strict liquidity and valuation rules. And the third is enhanced liquidity assessment. The old idea that listed instruments are automatically liquid, that's gone. Managers now have to do serious ongoing checks on the liquidity of all their holdings.
That sounds like quite a fundamental change, especially that liquidity part and the data needed for the look-through. What does this mean practically for the funds?
It definitely means funds might need some re-engineering and operational costs. They're likely going up, mainly because of the new data management involved. This is precisely where skilled legal counsel becomes, indispensable.
Right.
Their expertise is vital for advising on how to restructure products, handle all the documentation updates, think prospectus, risk management process docs, ensuring everything's compliant and runs smoothly.
Okay, so that's the EU level. Let's zero in now on Luxembourg itself. What's the national regulator, the Commission de Surveillance du Secteur Financier?
The CSSF.
Right.
On June 27th, 2025, they issued Circular 25-894, and this immediately replaced an older Circular 15-612.
Immediately. Okay.
Why the change?
It looks like a strategic play by the CSSF. They're building a single comprehensive data source for all managers they oversee. It boosts their supervisory power significantly, helps them spot concentration risks. It really highlights Luxembourg's data-driven, sort of proactive governance style.
And what are the key changes for the IFMs, the investment fund managers? What do they need to be aware of?
Well, first, the scope is much broader. It now covers any fund managed by a Luxembourg IFM, even if the fund itself isn't CSSF authorized. Think regulated European funds managed cross-border.
Okay, so it pulls more funds into their reporting net. Exactly. Plus, IFMs have to provide more detailed info on key service providers, administrators, delegated portfolio managers, including their legal entity identifiers, the LEIs, and who supervises them. And importantly, everything's digital now. All notifications, all updates go through the CSSF's eDesk portal.
That's a big shift to digital.
Yeah.
How should IFMs gear up for this?
They really need to review their internal processes, their due diligence, check their delegation agreements. Again, legal advice is crucial here, making sure contracts cover the new reporting needs, and just figuring out the new eDesk system effectively.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. There's also been a pretty big court ruling affecting mergers and acquisitions, M&A, and corporate governance.
Yes, a landmark judgment, actually. It came down on July 2nd, 2025, from the General Court. Case T289-24, Brasserie Nationale and Munhowen versus the Commission.
Right. And why is this so significant?
Because it basically ends an old assumption. People used to think that if a deal didn't have an EU dimension, it was sort of safe from mandatory antitrust review before closing, especially since Luxembourg doesn't have its own national merger control system.
Yeah.
This ruling confirms the European Commission can accept referrals under Article 22, even for deals below the usual thresholds. It introduces a whole new, pretty significant execution risk for M&A deals involving Luxembourg. It really underscores the Grand Duchy's commitment to strong competition rules. It forces a rethink of timelines and risk for deal makers here.
Wow, okay. A real game changer then. What does this mean for actually writing the deals, the share purchase agreements or SPAs?
It means concrete changes are needed in the SPAs. You'll want to consider a new condition precedent for closing, basically, needing confirmation that Luxembourg's competition authority, the Autorité de la Concurrence du Luxembourg, or ACL, hasn't requested a referral, or that you've got clearance from the Commission.
That adds a hurdle.
Definitely. And risk allocation becomes a huge negotiation point. Buyers will likely want easier ways to walk away, while sellers might push for those hell or high water clauses, forcing the deal through. Also, the long stop date, the final deadline for the deal, probably needs extending to allow for potentially long commission investigations.
So advisors need to adapt their playbooks fast. What's the takeaway for professionals working on these deals?
The bottom line is, adapt your due diligence and your contracts immediately to handle this new uncertainty. This is where having sharp legal counsel really gives you a strategic edge, helping structure the deal, navigate negotiations, and manage these new complexities. So looking at all this together, you see a clear direction. More EU-level alignment, much more data-focused supervision locally, and, well, new legal and regulatory risks popping up, particularly in M&A. It all points to Luxembourg's sophisticated, forward-looking approach to its legal and regulatory setup.
Absolutely. And it means practitioners that's likely you listening need a proactive, joined-up approach. Your legal, compliance, operational frameworks, they need ongoing tweaking, not just a checkup now and then. And as we've heard, legal professionals with their deep knowledge and careful approach are really key to navigating all this. It's not just about staying compliant, it's about gaining that strategic advantage that keeps Luxembourg's financial ecosystem strong, stable, and innovative. We hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights from your sources. Don't forget to hit the subscribe and like buttons.
This podcast contains content generated or significantly edited using artificial intelligence tools. All information is provided for general informational purposes only and reflects knowledge available at the time of publication. It does not constitute financial, investment, or legal advice. We recommend that listeners verify the information independently and consult with qualified professionals for personalized advice.
Luxembourg Intelligence News Briefing.